dance and performance studies major and rhetoric major here at Cal, and I will be graduating in a few weeks, so this is definitely my culminating project of my entire undergraduate experience. So I'm very excited to have all of you here today. My thesis performance and project is called Chutzpah, which is a Yiddish word, you might have heard of it. And it's a thesis on the intersection of Jewish and homosexual identity in Israeli drag. And this definitely started as a personal experience for me. Just to give some background, I've been to Israel many times. I identify as Jewish. And I went, one of the earliest times that I went to Israel, I was with Tagli Birthright. And it's a very Zionist organization, very Zionist incentives, and part of their mission is to connect American Jews with IDF soldiers, with Israeli soldiers. So college students from America come to Israel and interact with people that are the same age as us, but they're serving in the army instead of in college, many of them. So that's sort of where this began, and I will try to remember everything. So on this trip, I met one of my closest friends, Yonatan, and he is a fabulous Israeli drag queen on the side of serving in this very heteronormative, masculine-oriented institution that sort of runs life in Israel for people our age, between 18 and 22 for men. So that's sort of where my interest in this experience of Israeli drag queens began with him. And after going back many times, I actually sort of got even more interested by seeing a lot of Israeli drag, mostly in Tel Aviv, also in Jerusalem. And this is Yonatan up there with me. We're both in female drag. So for him, he was a drag queen in that moment, and I was a faux queen, which I recently learned is the name for women that perform female drag. So I'm actually interested in female drag, even as a woman. So that was my experience with him. We also met a bunch of other drag queens. It was fabulous, so much fun, loved it. And then I came back to Berkeley my senior year and decided that I wanted to really pursue this field and look into this topic from an academic and research-oriented standpoint. So I'm especially interested in this sort of identity, this process of performance, because it really brings together it seems to bring together so many different identities. I'm really interested in the way various identities intersect in this site. So from what I have been thinking, it brings together religious identity. So all of these drag queens are Jewish, some of them more secular than others. They're also, I think a lot of Jews also identify as Jewish ethnically, so it's also an ethnic identification. They're Israeli, which is their national identity. They're homosexual, and most of them are cis male. So they're male-bodied and identify as male. There weren't a lot of trans women involved in this scene when I was there and when I've been researching it. So a lot of these men perform as women, very typical drag situation. The sort of insight that I was really impressed with was a lot of times these drag queens they perform as Orthodox Jewish women. So this was like the thing that just totally blew my mind. And I have some pictures. This is Yonatan's. He does a variety of different drag performance, but this is my friend Yonatan, and his drag queen name is Cinderella. So this is an example of this is Shahar Hadar. He's an Israeli Jewish man, Orthodox, identifies as Orthodox, goes to yeshiva, and he performs as an Orthodox woman. And his drag queen name is Rebbetzin Malka Falsha, which is, Rebbetzin is the word for the wife of a rabbi, and Malka is queen. It's like a royalty name, Malka, and Falsha is fake. So this was just mind-blowing to me, that these gay men perform as straight Orthodox women, to sort of comment on the Orthodox Jewish experience, the discrepancy between the queer community and the Orthodox Jewish community was mind-blowing. And I'll give another example. This is This was a performance that I actually saw in Israel. Galina Portabra is the name of this performer, and she was in one of the pictures I showed. She was feeding me ice cream after one of the performances, don't ask. These are drag queens that are dressed up. Normally drag queens, if you've seen them, are very exposed and sexy, and it's very showy. These are drag queens that are very covered up. They're wearing clothes that Orthodox Jewish women would wear. They're wearing wigs, like Orthodox Jewish women would wear in Israel. And they perform songs like Hava Nagila, which is a very stereotypical Jewish celebratory song, or Sing Hallelujah. They sort of make a parody of this praise and ritual and consumption that a lot of people think that Orthodox Jewish women have among other Orthodox Jews. So this was my nugget of inspiration. I still cannot even conceive of all the complications and the identity intersections that go into this particular sort of Israeli drag performance. And I also noticed, as a sort of tangential theme, that a lot of archetypal Israeli identities are referenced in a lot of Israeli drag, including this. And just to throw those ideas out there, the soldier identity, there's a lot of masculine IDF soldier references in Israeli drag, not specifically here. This is more of the Orthodox Jewish archetype. So that's the second one. And then also the new Jew kibbutznik, the Zionist, sort of secular Jew that's also very masculine, very physical. So there are definitely consistent themes and archetypal identities that are referenced in Israeli drag, and I'm, of course, most interested in the Orthodox Jewish archetype and identity that's played with by Orthodox Jews and secular Jews and gay Jews and straight Jews, and a lot of people are commenting on this, and I'm really interested in what these drag queens have to say about it. So some of my conclusions, I'm just trying to see, okay. So some of my conclusions that have come from this are that these archetypal Israeli identities that these drag queens reference, they reference them in an attempt to problematize Israel's relationship with Judaism, because on one end of the spectrum it's a very Jewish, Orthodox, traditional country. On the other end of the spectrum, especially within the Middle East, it's a queer, safe haven. I'm pretty sure there's marriage equality, and it's a mecca of gay rights and celebration there. So there are these very differing experiences that exist within the same tiny little country. I also think that they're suggesting that Judaism can further be queered to be more accessible to the gay community. This is the gay community sort of taking on the issue of religion in its own way, in nightclubs at midnight in the bowels of Tel Aviv, where a lot of these things aren't publicized. It's very underground, but it's very pertinent, and I think the message is so rich, but it definitely isn't mainstream yet. I also think they make some interesting points about straight Orthodox women. They're sort of tapping into the power that in Orthodox communities, Orthodox women are very coveted, very, they're sort of the cornerstone, the capstone, keystone of the family, and they have a lot of social power within Orthodox communities. And so I think as gay men who are often, pushed aside and marginalized, they're trying to tap into the social power and legitimacy that Orthodox Jewish women have, which is very interesting, that they relate more to the Orthodox Jewish women who get to do makeup and jewelry and clothes and wigs more than the Orthodox Jewish men who have the same gender identity that they have. So yeah, I think they're trying to reclaim and reconstruct Jewish male femininity, actually, as an alternative and progressive performance of masculinity.